smoke billowed from a bridge where a bus was reportedly set on fire. The bus was empty at the time of the incident, reportedly.
Allez, merde!
These are the images where around 100 protesters attempted to block a roundabout near the Ring Road. While it was still dark, but they were repelled by the police using tear gas. In another part, crowds blocked the morning rush hour traffic. Cars were stranded, horns blaring as demonstrators called the new appointment a slap in the face. Protesters also set tires ablaze at a roundabout in one area, the smoke mixing with the tear gas as the riot police charged in. And amid the chaos on the streets, the new French Prime Minister took charge. And in his first remarks, he called for policy change and creative ways.
We will also have to change, certainly be more creative, sometimes more technical, more serious in the way we work with our opposition. I will have the opportunity to come back to this. We both just spoke about this at great length. But I also say it, there must be changes, not just in terms of form or method, but in substance as well.
Et pas que dans la méthode.
The decentralized nature of the protests set to flare up, it seems, even in the countryside and small towns, reminiscent of the 2018 Yellow Vest movement that, without a clear political leadership, became a major test for Macron during his first term in office. And earlier, this is the expert voice that we got in on the developments.
Well, first of all, this is absolutely not linked to Sébastien Lecornu. Nobody knew when they planned those protests at least a month ago, and it began with the hard right, not the hard left. It was joined recently by the hard left, but it was planned by the hard right as a reminiscent movement of the Yellow Vests. And nobody knew that Prime Minister Bayrou would first decide to hold a vote of confidence, and second, that he would lose it. I mean, once he decided, it was fairly understood that he would lose it. But until yesterday, nobody knew that Sébastien Lecornu was going to replace François Bayrou as Prime Minister. And second, Sébastien Lecornu, who's been the Defense Secretary for almost 4 years, is a quiet sort of personality. Not at all, it's not against him. It certainly is against Emmanuel Macron, who's very much hated a year and a half before the end of his second and last term. But it is it's not so much opportunistic to politics now. And second, of course, you've got all those images of unrest, but you've got 80,000 police and gendarmes across the country.
Government facilities vandalized, prominent leaders attacked as protests continued for a third consecutive day in Nepal. Initially triggered against the short-lived social media ban and corruption issues as well, the protests in the country quickly escalated into violent demonstrations across various parts, claiming 22 lives. In fact, several government buildings, including the main administrative building of the Nepal government in Kathmandu, was set on fire. The social media ban was lifted on Tuesday, but the protests continued, fueled by rage over the deaths and accusations of political corruption. Flight operations to and from Kathmandu were suspended, leaving people stranded across the country. Furious protesters set fire to the parliament building in Kathmandu, forcing the Prime Minister to resign. Oli stepped down shortly after hundreds of demonstrators entered his office, shouting anti-government slogans. As a result of the unrest, the houses and offices of several prominent leaders of Nepal were also set on fire. Hours before the Prime Minister's resignation, the protesters torched the Nepalese leader's private house and attacked properties of the President, a former Prime Minister, Communication Minister, also the former Home Minister. In fact, a large number of prisoners have escaped from different jails across the country during the violent anti-government protests. According to the Nepal Police DIG, nearly 13,000 prisoners have escaped so far. The inmates from Kathmandu's jail, one of the jails, stepped out of the prison premises on Wednesday, demanding their release amid the ongoing unrest. The Nepalese army has been deployed in and around the jail to prevent further escalation as the law enforcement struggles to maintain control in the capital. The country's army has taken charge of ensuring calm in Nepal till a new government is in place. The army is on the streets as the citizens begin cleaning up. There are also these visuals from the Transport Management Office building in Kathmandu, the youth leading the way, cleaning up the streets and the buildings following those violent protests. The army has expressed appreciation for the public's cooperation in helping maintain order while offering condolences for the loss of life and property in the violent demonstrations. In fact, the protest started on the 8th of September in Kathmandu and other areas after the government imposed a ban on major social media platforms. Citing tax revenue and cybersecurity concerns, protesters demanded an end to institutionalized corruption and favoritism in governance. And Nepal witnessing that chaos, the top leadership of the country we just told you what has been going on. In fact, political leaders facing violence, streets being patrolled by the army. Anger against the ruling class took a violent turn. What started as a protest against social media ban has now become a platform of public dissent. Protesters calling for change, speculation on the rise regarding Oli's replacement, search for a new and young face that does not belong to Nepal's ruling elite. The name that is doing the rounds is that of the Kathmandu mayor. The current mayor of the capital city, the first independent candidate to hold the position without party backing, also has been part of the Nepalese hip-hop industry since 2012 when he released his first single. His initiatives as a mayor ranging from cleaning up Kathmandu streets, improving public schools, cracking down on tax-evading private institutions. In fact, he studied structural engineering, left-wing ideologue. He's been also supporting Greater Nepal theory that claims states of Northeast India to be part of India. In 2023, he drew major controversy after placing a map of Greater Nepal in his office. The same year, he banned the screening of Indian films in Kathmandu. He has been vocal about his support to the Gen Z protesters, calling the demonstrations an expression of their frustration. His connection with Gen Z protesters, who see him as a friend and ally, have elevated him as a potential interim leader. Let's go straight across now to our correspondent, Saloni Murarka, who's been tracking those developments on the ground in Kathmandu. Saloni, over to you. What is the latest that you have at this point?
Well, of course, the Gen Zs, the groups, there are multiple groups. They held a 5 hour long video call today. They started off in the afternoon to discuss the situation and on what the trajectory will be. And as the army chief had asked for their suggestions on what they would want to appeal. And in those 5 hours call, they decided on a name to come out with. That is the former CJ, Sushila Karki. However, there are many more groups who are not happy with this decision. They want a little younger leader like Balin Shah to lead the country for them, for the youngsters, and they believe that this is what the fight was about. So, hence, due to this disagreements between among the groups, the meeting between the Gen Zs and the army chief was inconclusive. The army chief has also again asked them to come out with one single name tomorrow, and most likely they will sit for another round tomorrow. And as I'm speaking to you, the former Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli has sent out a written message to the Gen Zs from the Shivpuri area, which is a military secure area here in the valley, where he has addressed the Gen Zs and conveyed his personal grief, struggles, and the reflections on governance as well. He paid tribute to the youth who lost their lives, and he also recalled his tenure as Home Minister, highlighting that no bullets were fired under his administration, and stressed that his lifelong stance for peace. However, he accused the forces behind the ongoing protests of exploiting young demonstrations to carry out destructive activities. This it believes that he's been targeting the external factor in these protests and what he's alleging to, and this is the first reaction that is coming out from KP Sharma Oli.
All right, we're leaving it there for the moment. Saloni, thanks very much for joining us with those updates. And shifting focus for now, Dr. Yasmin Rashid, former Provincial Health Minister of Pakistan's Punjab, has been sentenced to 10 years in prison over the riots of 2023. This is the third conviction of Dr. Yasmin in connection with the May 9 violence. Anti-terrorism court in Lahore found Yasmin and several other leaders of the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf guilty of inciting violence and damaging public property, including the arson of a High Court judge's convoy vehicle. Along with Rashid, Punjab governor and also party leaders, some of them have been sentenced to 10-year jail term. The court, however, acquitted the PTI vice chairman, Shah Mahmood Qureshi, and 2 women on grounds of insufficient evidence. 51 individuals, including 5 women, were implicated in the case. Among them, 39 underwent a full trial within the jail premises, while 12 were declared absconders. Violent riots broke out on May 9, 2023, after Imran Khan's brief arrest in Islamabad on corruption charges, prompting his supporters to attack the government and military targets. In response, authorities detained thousands of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf members and supporters, charging hundreds under anti-terrorism laws, and some cases were referred to military courts as part of a large-scale crackdown. The Epstein files controversy getting murkier by the day, with several high-profile names featuring in an alleged birthday book from the year 2003 linked to deceased billionaire Jeffrey Epstein. And now the UK Prime Minister has defended the UK envoy to the US. After newly released files by the US House Committee revealed that Mandelson allegedly called the disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein his best pal, quote-unquote. A Downing Street spokesperson said that the Prime Minister still has confidence in Lord Mandelson and that Mandelson has played a key part in strengthening trade and investment with the US, which had secured jobs in the UK. Lord Mandelson, then a Labour MP, allegedly described Epstein in a message for his 50th birthday in 2003 as an intelligent, sharp-witted man who parachuted into his life. Several pages of the book allegedly feature photos of Mandelson alongside a lengthy note. In fact, Mandelson's links with Epstein, allegedly, have long raised questions. A 2019 internal report on Epstein by JP Morgan Bank filed to a New York court found Epstein appeared to maintain a particularly close relationship with Prince Andrew, the Duke of York, and Peter Mandelson. The U.S. House Oversight Committee published the entire book on Monday. Other contributors, including President Donald Trump, former U.S. President Bill Clinton, former CEO of Victoria's Secret, and professor at Harvard Law School, among others. On to Brazil now, where the former president is just one vote away from jail. His coup trial has entered final phase. In fact, 2 judges from the 5 judges bench have voted against him. Meanwhile, one has voted to annul former president. Verdict of 2 more judges expected in the next 2 days, with the final verdict expected on the 12th of September. Bolsonaro faces jail term of over 40 years if convicted. He is accused of staging a coup, seeking to stay in power after his 2022 election defeat. The former head of state is in the dock on 5 charges with 7 co-defendants, including former ministers and generals. Bolsonaro claims he is a victim of political persecution. His son called the trial a farce.
Waiting for the end of the first act of the farce being carried out by Minister Alexandre de Moraes.
His ally north of the Caribbean, Donald Trump, echoing the same sentiment. He is accusing Brazil's judiciary of a witch hunt against Bolsonaro. In fact, Trump is pressing for Bolsonaro's release. The U.S. Treasury Department imposed sanctions on Supreme Court judges. On the first day of the verdict phase, Brazil's Supreme Court vowed to defy any external pressure. Judges can change their vote until a final verdict is reached. Once there is clarity on the convictions, the court will undertake deliberation on the sentencing. But as things unfold in court, streets of Brazil heating up. Supporters of Bolsonaro are coming out in his support, carrying out demonstrations and protests around the country. From prayers to God to appealing Donald Trump, Bolsonaro supporters doing it all. The security arrangements have been tightened around the country's Supreme Court. Bolsonaro is currently in house arrest. He is disqualified from holding public office until 2030. Fearing his conviction is imminent, Bolsonaro's allies are pushing the Congress to pass an amnesty law to save Bolsonaro from prison. In Mali, fears rising in the capital city after Al-Qaeda-linked militants announced a fuel blockade and began burning trucks entering the country. The group released a video last week declaring the start of the blockade to target the road networks Mali depends on for fuel and essential goods. Retired soldiers and residents saying that they are worried but believe the militant propaganda may be overstating the group's reach.
The information that we know now is that the jihadists have spread information that they are taking over everywhere. In Bamako, this frightens us. We are afraid and we are worried. Yesterday and the day before yesterday, everyone was afraid. But it is propaganda. They will not be able to take Bamako. I am a former soldier. I swear to God that the terrorists cannot take this country.
The country, which is landlocked and already struggling with the prolonged insurgency, now faces the threat of economic suffocation. However, truck drivers remain on edge as the attacks put both lives and livelihoods at risk.
The issue of the tankers and the fuel blockage at the entrance to the country risks creating a lot of difficulties for us, the drivers. We absolutely must find a solution to this, and I am convinced that the Malian army will be able to do it. We all want to see peace return to this country.
Experts warn that Mali's heavy reliance on imports could make the impact of this blockade devastating if it continues.
33% of everything Mali buys as goods and services from abroad is fuel and its derivatives. So Senegal is an important source of supplies for our country as well as for cement. So we are being deprived of that a little now by these armed terrorist groups. I also think that the attack on industrial units in the first region is in line with the same idea. It's about stopping economic exchanges, economically suffocating our country, and above all, preventing the capital from getting supplies.
The government is yet to respond publicly to the latest escalation. For more on this, our correspondent getting us this report.
Fears of possible escalation arising from Nigeria oil sector truckers' strike were doused as their union, NUPENG, suspended the strike on Tuesday. The two-day action, which began Monday, protested alleged anti-union practices as Dangote hired drivers for its 10,000 CNG trucks, reportedly barring them from union membership, a claim the refinery denied. Talks brokered by Federal Minister of Labour and Employment failed on Monday, escalating fears of fuel shortages, a fear dismissed by the refinery as they assured Nigerians of continuous supply irrespective of the situation. However, Tuesday's reconvened meeting in Abuja, mediated by the DSS, led to a signed MOU. Dangote has agreed to unionize willing workers by September 22nd, ensuring no victimization for strikers. Now, the latest brawl has once again brought to the fore issues of unionism across public and private organizations. From Lagos, Nigeria, Louisa Olaniyi, WION, World is One.
With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Race to Power. We are taking a very short break. Stay with us.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called WION Wellness Center. The WION Wellness Center provides 500,000 square feet of natural methods to manage diabetes, hypertension, chronic pain, obesity, depression, anxiety, and other conditions. We use the traditions of centuries-old natural science from India, yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy in personalized programs that help you take charge of your own health. A minimum 5-day stay is recommended for best results. Book now at yo1.com.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Hello there and welcome back to WION The World is One. We are glad you're watching. Time now for Fine Print. American Joker, the headlines. Moscow accuses Poland of spreading myths and lacking evidence after Warsaw downed several drones that breached its airspace in an overnight attack targeting Ukraine. Poland's Prime Minister Tusk has warned that the threat of large-scale conflict is closer than at any time since World War II, after saying that Russian drones were shot down in Polish border. Israel's military says it struck Houthi targets in Yemen, including the capital Sana'a. The attack comes after the Iran-backed rebels fired yet another missile towards Israel. Kamala Harris says it was reckless to allow former President Joe Biden to decide to seek re-election in 2024. This is according to excerpts from her new book. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez's wife, Begoña Gomez, denies in court misusing public funds by hiring a personal assistant in an embezzlement probe that has rattled the leftist government. Cuba suffered a nationwide blackout, the fifth on the cash-strapped Caribbean island in under a year. UNICEF warns obesity has skyrocketed among children and adolescents bombarded by unethical marketing of junk food, outpacing undernourishment to become the leading form of malnutrition worldwide for the first time among those aged between 5 to 19. Former Premier League referee David Cooch is hung with making an indecent image of a child. The 43-year-old is due to appear at Nottingham Magistrates Court on Thursday. The war has just entered a very dangerous territory. In a dramatic escalation, Russian drones violated Polish airspace during a swift and furious response from NATO. The alliance has vowed that every inch of its territory will be shielded. The Russian army says it did not target Polish sites in an overnight drone attack. But with the NATO fighter jets shooting down Russian drones for the first time, the red lines have clearly been crossed. Here's a report.
Russian airstrikes are getting deadlier and bigger, striking deeper inside Ukraine. A deadly combination of missiles, drones and glide bombs are causing death and destruction. In the latest attack, Russia launched more than 400 drones and over 40 cruise missiles of various types. This included the Iskander and Caliber missiles. This time the Russian aerial attack crossed the borders of Ukraine. Russian drones swarmed Polish skies in a stunning, brazen incursion. Poland says that over 19 Russian projectiles entered its airspace. Polish forces leapt into the fray, launching countermeasures. Its fighter jets took to the skies.